The Silent Sky, A Hidden American History. Hook, the night America almost disappeared. Most Americans alive today have never heard of December 10, 1949, a night when a string of coded messages crackled across military radios, when radar screens lit up with impossible signals, and when the United States government quietly prepared for an event so catastrophic that the nation's survival seemed uncertain. No newspapers reported it, no memorials mention it, no president ever spoke publicly about it. Yet for one night, history balanced on a knife's edge. And the story began not in Washington, not in a military base, but in a silent, snow-covered valley in Montana, where an ordinary American rancher looked up, froze, and whispered. What he saw would pull together scientists from MIT, code breakers from Arlington Hall, pilots from the 509th Composite Group, and the woman whose name was erased from official documents for 72 years, Eleanor Hart, the mathematician who predicted what no one else dared to imagine. This is her story. This is America's forgotten night. Part 1. The Signal. Chapter 1. The Rancher Who Saw Too Much. The winter of 1949 had been brutal across the northern United States. Montana, with its endless plains and stubborn winds, felt like the edge of the world, a place where radio signals went to die and cold swallowed sound. At 3:17 a.m., the sky above White Bluff Valley was a velvet sheet of black broken only by the white shimmer of starlight. Inside a wooden ranch house, Thomas Rourke, age 58, former World War II supply sergeant, now cattle rancher, awoke to a trembling window pane. He thought it was the wind. Then he heard it again, a low humming vibration, deeper than thunder, but soft enough to feel more than hear. The cattle outside were restless, hooves scraping the frozen ground. Rourke slipped on his boots, grabbed his old flashlight, and stepped into the cold. The air smelled strange, metallic, electric, like the taste of a battery on the tongue. Then he saw it. A shape moved across the sky. Silent, mathematically smooth. Wrong. Not a plane, not a meteor, not anything he could name. It glided low, barely 50 feet above the ground, long and curved like a teardrop of black glass, absorbing light instead of reflecting it. As it passed overhead, the hum intensified, vibrating Rourke's bones. And then, in a flash, it darted upward with a speed no machine in 1949 should have possessed. Rourke dropped his flashlight. He whispered, "No man built that." The next morning, his life would change forever, not because of what he saw, but because he reported it, and because someone in Washington had been waiting for such a report. Chapter 2. The Mathematician Washington Tried to Forget. 1,600 miles away, in a dimly lit office at Arlington Hall, Eleanor Hart leaned over pages filled with coded fragments. 32 years old, hair tied back, sleeves rolled up, she was the best cryptanalysis no one knew. She shouldn't have been there. Not in the eyes of the old generals, not in a field dominated by men. But wartime necessity had opened doors, and Eleanor had walked through them with a quiet intensity that unsettled even her superiors. On this morning, she was studying a pattern. A sequence of anomalous radar returns recorded over the past 6 weeks across isolated regions of the United States. Wyoming, Idaho, northern Nevada, Montana. echoes of objects that appeared and vanished too quickly for conventional aircraft. The official term was transient aerial discontinuities. Unofficially, people whispered a simpler word: ghosts. Eleanor preferred neither. Numbers were her language, not myths. And the numbers terrified her, because they suggested a path, a trajectory that intersected directly with the northern interior of the United States. When she connected the dots, the pattern formed something that looked alarmingly like a map, a deliberate route. Someone or something scanning the United States. She pushed her glasses up, heart thumping. If her interpretation was correct, the next anomaly should appear somewhere over. Her phone rang. "Arlington Hall, Hart speaking." A male voice replied, "We have a civilian report from Montana. Matches your coordinates exactly." Her hand froze. This meant one thing. The pattern was real, and it had just escalated. Chapter 3. Washington Briefing. By midday, Eleanor was sitting in the Pentagon's Conference Room 6B, a place where secret maps covered the walls and the air always smelled faintly of fear and cigarette smoke. General Marcus Halperin, decorated war hero and famously stubborn skeptic, was already irritated. "These so-called radar ghosts have been explained. Atmospheric interference, temperature inversion, technical malfunctions. Pick your excuse." Eleanor placed her folder on the table. "With respect, sir," she said, "the Montana report matches our projections within 2 miles, and combined with the radar data, a rancher's story and a few blips on a faulty machine don't justify national panic," Halperin snapped. Eleanor didn't flinch. "Then let's talk about the speed estimates." She clicked a slide projector. A photo appeared, a radar graph with a sharp vertical spike. This object accelerated from 0 to over 6,000 miles per hour in under a second. Halperin stared. "That's impossible." "That's what I've been trying to tell you." A heavy silence fell. Across the table, Dr. Alan Weiss, a physicist from MIT, leaned forward. "She's right," he said quietly. "No aircraft on Earth can move like this. Not American, not Soviet, not anyone." Halperin exhaled through his nose, unimpressed. "So what are you saying? A new enemy? A new weapon? Little green men?" Eleanor ignored the sarcasm. "I'm saying we have an intelligence breach in our own sky, and unless we understand what these objects are, we are blind." Halperin rubbed his temples. Then the room door burst open. A young major rushed in, pale, breath heaving. "Sir, another sighting, northern Colorado, same signature." Eleanor felt her pulse spike. The pattern was accelerating. Something was moving south. Chapter 4. The night everything lit up. By sunset, the United States Air Defense Command had quietly shifted to Condition Amber, a level just below wartime readiness. Radar stations from Montana to New Mexico were ordered to sweep non-stop. Pilots were grounded, armed, and waiting. Washington whispered. The public knew nothing. At 7:42 p.m., the first major anomaly struck. NORAD radar near Laramie, Wyoming, picked up 3 fast-moving objects entering U.S. airspace at impossible speeds. At 7:45, the objects split. One vanished, one descended, one continued south. At 7:58, all 3 signals returned, stronger, clearer, and now appearing on every radar frequency simultaneously. Technicians panicked, machines sparked. They had never seen anything like this. At 8:02, the object stopped directly over central Colorado. No movement, no signals, just silence. Then the sky lit up. A column of white light burst downward, touching the earth for 3 full seconds before blinking out. Phones rang across Washington. Commanders shouted. Scientists argued. Ellimer stood quietly in the chaos, staring at the last frame of radar footage. 3 identical objects, perfectly aligned, unmoving, as if waiting. She whispered, "They're scanning the ground." Chapter 5. The Decision Room. By 9 p.m., President Truman was briefed. He listened silently. Part 2. The Descent. Chapter 6. The Silence over Colorado. The town of Crestview, Colorado was small enough that everyone knew everyone, and dull enough that nothing ever made headlines. At 8:03 p.m., the only sound was a train horn echoing across the foothills. Then the power went out. First, the street lamps. Then the homes. Then the radio tower on Lawson Ridge sputtered and died. The entire town fell into a darkness so complete that even the stars seemed to disappear. 3 teenagers, Sarah Pike, Andrew Collins, and Marcus Hale, stood in the middle of Main Street, staring upward. "What the hell is that?" Marcus whispered. Above them, the sky shimmered like a heat mirage, not bright, not loud, just wrong. A circular distortion, maybe 30 feet across, hovered silently. No lights, no wings, just a shifting, rippling absence of sky, as if something invisible hovered there and bent the air around it. Then came the sound, faint, like distant radio static. Sarah clamped her hands over her ears. Andrew stepped backward. "That's not a plane," Marcus whispered. "Run." But they didn't run. They couldn't. The distortion dropped lower. The static grew sharper, almost forming syllables. A voice? A machine? No one could tell. Sarah's legs finally moved. "Go!" The 3 sprinted across Main Street just as the distortion pulsed once. A silent flash that washed the buildings in a colorless, pale glow. Windows cracked. Dogs howled. Car alarms triggered even without electricity. Then, just as suddenly, the distortion shot straight upward and vanished. The town of Crestview went quiet. They didn't yet know that the echo of that pulse had been recorded by 7 radar stations, 2 weather satellites, and 1 secret Air Force installation. Nor did they know that the pulse had traveled much further than Colorado. It had reached Washington. Chapter 7. Eleanor's Warning. Inside the Pentagon, Eleanor Hertz stared at the oscillating wave pattern on her screen. She murmured, "This is not natural." Dr. Weiss leaned over her shoulder. "The frequency modulation is artificial. There's structure in the noise." "Language?" Eleanor asked quietly. "Or data?" Weiss replied. General Halperin overheard them and scoffed. "You 2 are turning weather noise into aliens again." Eleanor ignored the insult. She pointed to the timestamp. This pulse coincided exactly with the power loss in Crestview, Colorado. Halperin raised an eyebrow. "Coincidence?" Eleanor pressed a button. The waveform on the screen duplicated itself 4 times. Weiss inhaled sharply. "These are identical. The same signal appeared 3 weeks ago in Wyoming.
10 days ago in Idaho, and 2 days ago in Nevada. Halperin's dismissal faded. Eleanor continued, voice steady. This is not natural. Someone is mapping the American interior, not randomly, systematically. They're targeting rural areas, low-security zones. They're gathering topographical or geological data. Halperin finally spoke with gravity. For what purpose? Eleanor turned toward him. Reconnaissance. You only map territory when you're preparing to enter it. Chapter 8. Operation Deep Night. By 10:30 p.m., the White House authorized a covert national response under the temporary code name Operation Deep Night. Its goals: 1. Track the unidentified aerial objects. 2. Decode the anomalous pulse signal. 3. Secure the region below the Colorado event. 4. Prevent public panic at all costs. The public explanation for any unusual lights or power outages would be high-altitude military testing. Elamar was transferred to an underground operations room 6 floors beneath the Pentagon. No windows, 3 layers of clearance, constant surveillance. A massive map covered the wall. Red pins marked the sightings. The pattern was now unmistakable. A downward spiral, converging, tightening, all leading toward a central point in the Rocky Mountains. Dr. Weiss traced a finger across the map. It looks like triangulation. Eleanor felt her stomach knot. Triangulation of what? Before he could answer, a colonel rushed in, face white. "Ma'am, another pulse just hit, stronger than the last." Eleanor turned sharply. "Location." He continued in a staggering tone. "Southern Colorado, near the San Luis Valley." Eleanor froze. The San Luis Valley was known for many things: abandoned mines, geological anomalies, strange radio interference dating back to the early 1930s. And one more thing: a forgotten World War II facility buried beneath its soil. A facility that Eleanor had once analyzed during wartime signal mapping. A facility that should have remained invisible. Someone or something had found it. Chapter 9. The Hangar in the Valley. That night, a small Air Force team landed on a makeshift strip in the San Luis Valley. Eleanor was not cleared for field operations, but Truman himself had authorized her presence. The air was ice cold. The silence felt unnatural. Captain Raymond Holt, leading the ground team, jogged beside her. "Stay behind us. If we spot anything—" "I understand," Eleanor replied. Her breath turned to mist. Ahead of them loomed a rusted, half-buried structure, Hangar 14B, a relic from 1943 when the U.S. government had experimented with radar-resistant materials. The site had been abandoned after the war, or so everyone believed. The metal doors were bent outward from the inside, as if something had pushed them open. A faint, rhythmic crackling sound echoed in the darkness. Holt signaled his men, "Guns up, lights forward." As the flashlight swept across the interior, Eleanor felt the hair on her arms lift. The inside of the hangar was covered, floor, walls, ceiling, in a thin layer of metallic dust. No footprints, no tire tracks, no signs of human entry. Just dust. And at the far end lay a machine, or a fragment of one, a curved piece of dark metallic material, smooth as glass, seamless, slightly warm to the touch. Eleanor approached slowly. The crackling sound intensified when she came within 3 feet of it. Holt grabbed her arm. "Careful!" Eleanor ignored him. She placed her hand on the surface. Instantly, her mind exploded with static, deafening, blinding, suffocating. It wasn't sound. It wasn't noise. It was something pushing at her consciousness, searching, probing. Then it stopped. She stumbled backward. Holt caught her. "Eleanor, are you all right?" She steadied herself. Her breathing slowed, and then she spoke in a trembling whisper. "General Halperin was wrong." Holt frowned. Wrong about what? Eleanor stared at the metallic fragment, fear tightening her throat. "These things aren't just observing us." She swallowed. "They're looking for something hidden in American soil, something we buried during the war." Chapter 10. The File That Didn't Exist. Back in Washington, Eleanor demanded access to wartime classified archives, specifically those relating to abandoned military projects in the San Luis Valley. The archivist hesitated. Some of these files were sealed by executive order. "Unseal them," she said. Hours passed as she sifted through yellowed folders, burned documents, half-erased diagrams. Then she found it. A file simply labeled Project Echo. There were only 3 surviving pages. Page 1, an authorization signature by President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Page 2, a map of the valley with coordinates corresponding exactly to the hangar. Page 3, a single, chilling line. If recovery fails, the artifact is to remain buried. Under no circumstances should it be allowed to activate. Eleanor felt the blood drain from her face. Artifact. Activate. What did America bury?